Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new podcast that I'm doing entitled The Disney Debate. We have my good friend, Kat Mack, here. Say hi, Kat.
Hi, everyone.
And Kat is my resident Disney expert. She's who I go to know anything and everything about Disney and Disney-related things. So what we decided to do together, since we're both huge fans of Disney, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk to or debate with each other because we don't agree on everything.
Too true.
We're gonna, we're going to view pretty much every Disney film, and when I say every Disney film, I mean everything associated with Disney. Studio Ghibli is now under Disney ownership, I believe. And there's also the Disney Channel stuff that'll be later down the line. Yes, Kat. High School Musical.
No! Why are you doing this to me?
And, hey, at least you're not reading Twilight with me.
Oh, God. No.
And pretty much, if it's under the Disney banner, we're going to watch it, and we're going to comment on it, and we're going to do some coverage, and we're going to debate whether or not it's a good film, or, you know, whether or not people are reading too much into it or not. Just basically, we're going to debate Disney stuff. Hence the Disney debate. Yay!
Yay! We'll debate for the sake of debating.
But today, we figured a lot of people think of Snow White as the first Disney property. And yes, it is the first major animated feature film. It's one of Disney's biggest films, first films in general. But we wanted to go back further because what people don't talk about in a lot of their Disney musings is that they forget the Disney cartoons. And every one of us has grown up with the Disney cartoons. I mean, we know Bugs Bunny cartoons a little bit better, I think, but Disney cartoons were with us from a very young age, and it's something that I remember fondly.
Too true. And even the cartoons themselves were even updated in the 70s and 80s, you know, once the company managed to get a Technicolor and all that. So you can actually see, like, the old cartoons in two different formats, and it's kind of cool that way. But at the same time, you know, it kind of, like, loses its old-field charm, but, you know, they're still both enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. And so now, before we begin, Kat, tell me a little bit about your history with Disney, because you are my resident Disney expert. I want to know, how did you get your start with Disney?
Oh, you're making me blush. Well, I pretty much grew up on Disney, because here's the thing. My parents were like kind of strict when it came to what I watched, so, you know, like, because I didn't grow up with cable because of a lot of, like, you know, bad things that were on it that I would end up quoting, unfortunately. So a lot of the stuff I watched, you know, had to be really kid-friendly and stuff, and of course Disney falls right into that category. So I pretty much grew up with, like, a huge collection of all these Disney films, and my dad, being the movie nut that he was, would purchase, like, any movie he saw, any kid movie he saw at a really cheap price, or even, like, you know, like, get bootleg or whatever the heck. But basically, yeah, I grew up like everyone else, you know, watching the old good Disney Channel, and you know, since I was also like a kid of the '90s, of course I watched all the big named Renaissance releases that released during that time, and pretty much everything up to this point. And even nowadays, like, just because, you know, I'm such a Disney fan, I'll still watch the bad stuff, you know, just to see if it's really as bad as some people think it is. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But for the most part, it's all really nostalgic for me, because, like, a lot of the movies have the same kind of charm, even the really bad ones. So, yeah. And then, like, the recent years, you know, with discovering Nostalgia Critic and everything, I began looking at all the old stuff again. And, you know, this is pretty much all a nostalgic trip for me, basically. So, when you talked about the Disney debate, suddenly I'm thinking, oh my God, I can go back and watch all this stuff again. It's going to be awesome. And I'm actually planning my own Disney review as well. So in the midst of getting it off the ground, but basically I'm going to start off with The Little Mermaid, which was my very first movie ever, and we'll see where that goes.
Mm-hmm. My history with Disney was as usual. Like I grew up with the Disney cartoons, and my parents, of course, got me these very nostalgic, very good movies. Like I started with The Lion King and The Little Mermaid. And fun fact, my dad, his favorite movie is The Little Mermaid, still to this day. And so we would always watch that with him. And as time went on, like I would keep watching new Disney films as they came out. I saw Hercules in theaters. I saw The Hunchback of Notre Dame in theaters. And first of all, Hunchback of Notre Dame is my favorite Disney movie of all time.
It is awesome.
But it is so much better in theaters because you get a feeling of the weight of everything around you because it's such a grand scale movie. And the score is such grand scale, like the surround sound and everything in the theater just makes it so much better.
Oh, no doubt about it. It is absolutely gorgeous, the artwork and the atmosphere that they make for it. It's actually one of those movies that I'm really hoping that they re-release in 3D because that would look so awesome, especially all the scenes on the roof for the cathedral. I mean, think about it. Quasimodo's spinning off the top of the cathedral in 3D.
That's just it would be really cool. And it has some of my favorite Disney songs of all time in there. Hellfire is simply amazing. And it's perhaps the darkest Disney movie release of the Renaissance period.
I believe so.
In terms of the themes they explored.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, you throw religion into anything, of course you're going to get darkness.
But yeah, from then on, I kind of... during the Renaissance, I was always about Disney. I was Disney this and Disney that. As time went on, they started releasing some okay stuff and some good stuff. I watched Atlantis. I watched... I actually, when The Little Mermaid 2 was released, I actually saw that right away. I was young enough, but...
fun trivia fact, my little sister Nicole was actually born the very day that movie came out.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so she's actually as old as that movie is. So I always associate her birthday with that movie, and we always watch it during her birthday.
And, just from there, like, I could see that there was a downward trend in the quality coming out from Disney until The Emperor's New Groove came out. And I absolutely loved that film. I thought it was one of the greatest recent release. It's not really a musical, but it is a very funny movie. It's a very good Disney movie, and it was very different for the time period.
It had its moments. I wouldn't call it one of my favorites, though, but, that's for another review.
But, yeah, I mean, I grew up with Disney, and as time went on, I found that Disney wasn't producing the things that I wanted anymore.
Yeah.
But I still have a very special place in my heart for Disney films, and I think with the releases of Tangled and Princess and the Frog, I think they're returning to form a little bit.
I hope so. I mean, it's nice that that they're showing the old stuff again, but they really do need to come up with new material, to hook the new generation in, because right now all they're relying on is Pixar films, to rake in their revenue. But I'd really love to see more animated stuff, or even 3D stuff like Tangled, something similar to those formats, sort of to bring back that, that wowness factor that Disney used to have.
And I found Tangled was really different from even standard Disney fare, where they had the typical roles where they had princess, the prince, and everything else, but the shoe was on the other foot because the girl who played the main character in Tangled was the main protagonist, really. And she was much stronger than most girls were in prior Disney films.
True. Well, that seems to be the direction nowadays, making strong female leads to identify with, with the modern girl and everything, because virtually their old Disney heroines weren't really that proactive. So I guess they're trying to sort of make up for that. But then again, it was the time, so, what can you really say?
And that's something we're going to really get into in the Disney debate, how people view Disney films. A lot of people look down on Disney because they have questionable moral structure. And a lot of the time I just say it's the product of the times. Mm-hmm. Like the crows in Dumbo. There was racism back then. It's not something that you can really change.
True.
I mean, it's not Walt Disney's fault that it's in the film. He built a company based on moral righteousness. And even then, like, he can't be the specific moral compass for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's animators and there's other people working on the film that don't always adhere to his vision of what is good and what is bad. So
but I hate like the double standard people hold like Walt Disney too, because a lot of people say, oh, it's too cutesy, it's too kid-friendly, too sugary sweet, and that's why I hate it. And at the same time, you have people like, oh, they're actually really racist, and the stuff's too dark and adult, and it's not right for kids, and that's why I don't like it. And it's like, make up your freaking mind already. I mean, get your answer straight on why you don't like it. I mean, I think it seems like people have time, like, just make up reasons for hating Disney just because they're an easy target.
And in Walt Disney's philosophy was much in tune with the Don Bluths at the time, where he said he believed that kids could take anything if there was a happy ending.
Pretty much, I sort of believe that in a way, but then, there are those certain films that, they end happily, but at the same time, there's other stuff going on and that makes you wonder, was it really a happy ending? I mean, I don't know.
So it does depend. I think The Land Before Time is a perfect example of, well, not under the Disney banner, it was a perfect example of something really tragic happens. Like, you see people die, and it had a happy ending, and it was very uplifting.
True. And then, like, in Disney, you have two films which are perfect examples, like Pinocchio and Bambi. I mean, they're painted as real cutesy kiddie films, but if you actually sit down and watch them, they actually get surprisingly dark.
Mm-hmm.
And even traumatizing in some aspects. Yet people still remember the happy endings and stuff.
Mm-hmm. They also remember Thumper. Thumper is awesome.
They call me Thumper.
But yeah, so that is our really main goal with this podcast. We are going to look at the films and from a good, bad review standpoint, but what I really want to look at is what people look into Disney in this specific film. Like I said, some people look at Beauty and the Beast and say that she has Stockholm Syndrome, which is, I believe, completely untrue.
Yeah.
So we're going to view the films and we're going to review it, but we're also going to analyze it and look at what the film is actually saying and what we think the film really is saying. So, but today we are going to talk about cartoons.
Yay, cartoons!
The Disney. Walt Disney first started out as a cartoonist because back in the day, to have a feature film that's animated, that's fully animated, was just out of the question when he started animation. I mean, it's a long process, and there weren't enough animators at the time. There wasn't enough budget for animators at the time. And I think Disney was pretty much the pioneer in animated cartoons at the time, too.
One of them. I mean, you could argue that, was it Tex Avery or, the people who invented Looney Tunes came first, or, the people who made Fritz the Cat came first. I mean, you could argue a lot of things, but he did make a pretty big impact, though, in terms of Mickey and, making memorable characters and all that.
Mm-hmm. And so the first cartoon that we viewed for this podcast was the first cartoon that featured Mickey. And we could have looked at Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. However, it really did not have as much of an impact, and Disney didn't own the rights to the character for very long.
Yeah, unfortunately, Oswald's sort of considered the illegitimate bastard child of Disney, in a way. Just because, he had him for a brief period, but then he was, taken away because of, skeezy animated tycoons and stuff like that. But, yeah, basically, you could really say it all started with Mickey, because he made the biggest impact throughout history. So that's why we're reviewing Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, we took a look at Steamboat Willie, and this was a nostalgia trip for me because I don't think I've seen this in about 10 years. I think I saw this when I was a very young kid, and I saw it, and I'm just like, the animation is so different from what I remember.
Yeah.
It's a very different style. First of all, there's not really much talking going on in the episode.
Yeah, they all talking like growls and like squeaks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't really there wasn't really a coherent storyline going on, or there wasn't a storyline with a lot of plot. It was Mickey fooling around on a steamboat and doing wacky hijinks with animals.
Yes. And actually, the thing a lot of people either forget or don't know is that Mickey actually wasn't captain of the steamboat. It was actually his now longtime nemesis, Pete. So this marks his first appearance as well. And he was actually more like Pete's first mate, more, like a little rapscallion who, he did what he was told, but at the same time he caused trouble.
Mm-hmm. And one thing to really note about this, about Pete in this cartoon, is that he is smoking tobacco, or chewing tobacco. I said that twice now. He is chewing tobacco.
Yes.
And a lot of people will probably say that, oh my god, he's chewing tobacco. What a horrible cartoon. We can't show this to our children.
Oh my god, real life situations.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's no big deal. I mean, a lot of people did it back in the day, and it's not like they glorify it or anything. And they don't even make Pete that much of a compelling character. He's real gruff and angry. And when you see him chewing tobacco, he does it in a real disgusting way. And he even ends up accidentally spitting in his own face. So it's not like they glorified tobacco or anything like that. If anything, it was more of a unintentional PSA. Why you shouldn't chew tobacco.
Mm-hmm. And even if people looked at that and said, kids are going to try to imitate this. First of all, kids don't have access to tobacco. Maybe back in the day, but nowadays you have to be a certain age to own tobacco, to chew tobacco and use it. But even so, what little kid is going to look at the screen and say, I want to chew tobacco? Maybe in the South, I don't know too much about the South, but still, when I was a kid, I didn't look at it and say, I'm going to imitate this. I said, this is funny. And a lot of the stuff in the cartoon is not imitatable, like what Mickey does to the unfortunate animals.
Oh, my God, those poor animals.
Basically what he does is he winds the tail of one of the horses like a crank, and he starts singing. They do some really cartoony things. And if the Animal Protection Society or PETA or whatever looked at this, they would be like, these fiends, we must stop them immediately. They are ruining the animals.
Yeah, they would definitely hate this episode. I mean, you have Mickey force-feeding a cow hay just so it can, fit in a harness. You see him, shooting rocks at a parrot because it won't shut up. You see, a goat ends up eating a record player or something, so he actually opens its mouth and then cranks its tail so it'll play music, and then he even takes a duck and then starts pretty much choking it, pushing its head out from its neck so it makes a quacking noise. I mean, there's a lot of animal abuse in this. I felt really bad for those creatures. And actually,
I did feel bad for the animals.
Yeah, and I was actually agreeing with Pete in his decision to throw Mickey down into the into the hull of the boat and make him chop carrots or whatever. Because seriously, you don't fuck around with the livestock. That's your income.
Yeah, it seemed unnecessarily cruel for Mickey to do. But then again, there were very different standards on what was acceptable back then. In terms of, like, cartoon violence, like, anything goes back then.
True.
And so they could pretty much go around and, animate whatever they wanted to and, make it seem comical. And for the most part, it was fun, but I don't think this is the best Disney cartoon ever made. I think the evolution of Disney cartoons shows, like, how they perfected the formula.
Yeah, definitely true. They did get better with time. And, Steamboat Willie, it's entertaining, but, like you said, there's really no plot to it aside from, watching Mickey, have fun with the animals. And that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you get introduced to Minnie as well. You get to see her and her antics.
Yeah, it's the first time Minnie was put on screen, and I'm really surprised that during one part in the episode, they lift her up by her skirt with a crane, and
yes.
you see her underwear. And I'm just like, this isn't a children's cartoon.
Bad touch, bad touch.
And of course, they're quick to push down the skirt when she finally gets put down, but still, the damage has been done.
Well, you gotta admit one thing though. They did make her look like a really competent character, though. I mean, she was chasing after a boat in high heels. Seriously,
yeah,
that's
that's hard to do. I give credit to the fact that they didn't make Minnie into this damsel in distress yet.
Yeah, the whole Mickey, Pete, Minnie triangle hadn't been invented yet, so thankfully we didn't get to see that. Instead, we see her at a point where she was more known for her music instead of being just the girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how she transgressed to that. I mean, usually it's the opposite.
Yeah, usually it starts off without a strong female member, and I think it fell into the conventions of the time where it grew to the point where after the war there was a nuclear family. Like everyone was together. You had the father, the mother, and the two kids, and that was the perfect family. You had the women be the housewife, and those were the standards of that particular time.
True, but then you could argue during the wartime, the woman was the one who made the income and, was the breadwinner. And technically these did sort of come out during that time.
That's true. It really depends on how what you think affected the cartoon in this point in time. The standards were constantly changing in terms of how things were happening. And while women's suffrage wasn't for quite a while longer, the nuclear family did not last too long.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so the next cartoon that we viewed was what was it, The Wise Little Hen?
Yes, The Wise Little Hen, and it marks the first appearance of our favorite duck, Donald.
Yes, the first appearance of Donald the Duck. And what's really interesting about this episode is it really doesn't feature Donald Duck that much. It's more about the hen. Does she have a name in this?
I think she's just called a Wise Little Hen, but Disney fans like to call her was it Camilla, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Or Henrietta. I forgot which.
It's like Henrietta Hen.
Yeah.
And it really is about her. Donald is a side character,
mm-hmm.
and there's also a side character who's a pig. And I think what they were trying with this episode was they introduced Donald and they introduced the pig at the same time. They wanted to see which was less annoying, or which audiences would like better.
True.
And they chose the right person, I think.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the pig was funny, but I can't imagine that, they could get a voice actor who could sound like him all the time. I mean, at least with Donald, yeah, it's kind of grating on the voice, but I guess, it's the kind that you can kind of get used to. But the
mm-hmm.
pig, it's like you're constantly, snorting up your sinuses.
And I can understand Donald a little bit more than I can the pig, too.
Yeah, definitely. It was still entertaining, though.
It was a very entertaining episode, and I also like that really the episode revolves around Henrietta Hen and she's trying to go out and plant her corn, and she's asking both the pig and Donald if they can help her plant her corn, because back then it was, farming is hard. Farming takes a lot of help, and so they kept faking being sick in order to get out of work. However, when she was ready to eat her corn, they were like all ready on it. But she totally pwned them. Basically, what she did was they asked for some corn. She gave her a basket, and inside the basket was medicine for their tummy aches.
Denied.
So I really like this better than Steamboat Willie because it really does have a nice plot. It introduced Donald a little bit more than Mickey's cartoon did, and Donald is so different in this. He's so happy-go-lucky, and he's not angry.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a happier time for Donald. Although he's still a jerk, he's still a jerk throughout his cartoons and stuff. That much hasn't changed.
Yeah, but now he's an angry jerk. At least he's different from Daffy. Daffy is the greedy jerk. Donald he's kind of angry at everything.
True, Donald could be greedy too, though.
He can be, but he does always choose the right thing in the end.
Yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
And at least he doesn't get shot as often as Daffy does.
That's true. But yeah, I think this cartoon was much better than Steamboat Willie. It shows how much they've grown, and it showed how much the technology had changed from that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely looks a lot better.
It looks a lot better. They're talking. They're not like grunting and like animals.
Yes.
Except for the pig. But I think this was a great cartoon. What about you?
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I remember this cartoon vividly from when I was little. It's always one of those fairy tales with a moral thing that you're brought up with. And I had read stories that were like similar to that, but this one always stuck out in my head just because A, Donald Duck is in it, and B, it's a compelling story. And the characters are fun. The music's actually rather enjoyable and really catchy.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's not as catchy as a cartoon we'll talk about in a few down the line.
Oh, yes, so true.
But yeah, so what's the next cartoon that we viewed?
See, the next one we got is let me see. This is called Mickey's Review, and
oh yes,
and it actually marks the first official appearance of Goofy, as well as a few other side characters, including Henrietta Hen, Clarabelle Cow, and Horace Horse. So, and it was
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a character-centered episode, because some of the characters only appear briefly. It's more like, a big cast, get-together thing where all the characters put on this show for a bunch of orphans, I guess, to raise money or something. And, it's pretty much, just watching them dancing, singing, having fun. We get to watch, a few other side characters do some really goofy things. So it's pretty much, fun entertainment for the kids.
It's a bunch of vignettes strung together, really, them putting on a performance. And I don't think it's as good as the previous cartoon, but there are things I really like about it. Like, I like Donald is trying to read nursery rhymes to Mickey's illegitimate offspring.
Yes, every single orphan there is a mouse and looks exactly like him. He probably made a deal with the orphan and just like, okay, I'll make you a deal. I'm gonna put on a show to raise for all these guys, and then after that you take them off my hands, and I don't ever have to pay child support again.
Done. But I found it interesting that the kids at first are really eating up these nursery rhymes. Like he reads like Mary Had a Little Lamb. And they're like all clapping and everything, and I'm like, if I was a kid, would I really clap at this?
Yeah, I don't think that's something worth clapping over. It's not like, I mean, they look like, kids like probably older than 5, like between 5 and 10, they've probably heard this stuff before. It really doesn't make sense.
Although if a talking duck was saying that to me, dressed in a sailor suit, I may get a giggle out of that.
Yeah, very true. But then again, pretty much all the creatures in this world are anthropomorphic, so I'd imagine just be like watching a person say that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it was funny, and then when he starts to recite something else, they start messing with him, and he starts to lose his temper, and we see the angry Donald as we know him.
Yes.
Love him.
I love it though, like how he's pretty much threatening the orphans' lives if they don't let him finish.
and Mickey's like, Donald, this is a family organization. Let's put the cows on. Come on. And we see Goofy with
Camilla.
Camilla Cow and
it's Clarabelle. I'm sorry. Too many C names.
Basically the cow and the other one. And they're doing like wrestling stunts and stuff like that.
Well, it's a ballet thing, but they're also he's actually handling her really rough, and I don't mean that in a dirty way. But yeah, they're pretty much doing a ballet, and he's like doing all these weird stuff. He's like flipping her around, throwing her up in the air, and at one point he throws her so hard she actually comes out of her clothes.
Oh no! Censor!
I am surprised there were no censor bars over that. But then again, she's pretty much a stick figure, so it's not like there was really anything to show. I mean, I don't even think she had udders.
And really, they don't even show her out of her clothes. It's kind of like
yeah, she just like flies off screen really fast. So.
Mm-hmm. But it was an interesting. It was cool to see that Goofy's first performance or his first appearance was him being his goofy self.
Yeah.
And he was, he was clumsy. He was doing all these fun little clumsy things that we know Goofy to be doing as a whole. So that was really fun to watch.
And even before his official appearance, he was still, doing what he's known for. Because actually, he originally started off as a side character that was just known as Dippy Dog, and pretty much he started off as an obnoxious audience member who kept like laughing this really obnoxious laugh. It's not the same one that he does now, but it's pretty close. And since that one, he pretty much appeared as like a side character in the other episodes where they did, similar plots to this, where they put on shows and stuff. And I think this was like the first one where he was actually known as Goofy, and they established his character and what he does and everything. So he was pretty much, from the start, a goofy dog.
Mm-hmm. So. Although now he has a pet dog.
Strangely enough.
Named Pluto. Although it was once Mickey's, but now it's apparently Goofy's.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's changed hands a few different times, I think.
I think so. I think he was originally Minnie's dog, and then I think he became Goofy's, and then he became Mickey's.
Okay.
So. Yeah.
I don't want him. You have him. Oh no, Mickey. This is your dog.
I ain't walking him. You walk him.
And then we had a couple other vignettes. We had the hen try to sing opera.
Yeah, rather poorly.
And
I don't know if that was supposed to like be a spoof of an opera or something, but it was weird.
Yeah, it wasn't the best part of the episode. It was somewhat funny, but it kind of drove it to a halt.
Yeah.
And then we had the end of Donald's little spiel with reciting things, and the kids don't let him finish, and they drop like bricks on his head and stuff like that.
I know, those kids are sadistic.
I know, it's like Home Alone 3, only worse.
Yeah, seriously, like, if that were a normal situation, they would have killed him.
But yeah, so overall, I thought this wasn't the best episode. I think it was better than Steamboat Willie in the fact that it had a bunch of different characters doing stuff, and it wasn't just them goofing around. They had somewhat of a plot to put on a performance, and while it was mostly vignettes, there were a few fun ones, but I don't think it was as good as The Wise Little Hen.
True. I mean, well, it did its purpose though, because I mean they're performing for a bunch of kids, and that's pretty much what the cartoon is. It's to entertain kids. So I think it did its job in that aspect.
Yeah, I think it achieved what it set out to do, but I don't think it will be one of my favorite Disney cartoons.
Nah. It's enjoyable, but still,
Yeah. And so what was the next one that we viewed?
The next one is Playful Pluto.
Yes.
This episode. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. I watched it again, before we started doing this, and I still feel bad for Pluto. I'm trying to look at it like I do the other cartoons, where of course you have the characters getting hurt or accidentally hurting each other and stuff. And while those are funny, this one is just sad to watch.
Yeah, forget Steamboat Willie. Peter would be all over this.
Yes, this is like the prime example of animal cruelty in all these cartoons.
And Mickey is just sitting there laughing at all of this.
I know, he's a sadistic bastard too. I mean, what the hell? Are all the mice like this?
Remind me not to get a mouse.
Yeah, but basically the plot is that it's like those other cartoons that we've seen, where Mickey is hanging out with Pluto and, they're having fun together. But then Pluto starts getting into mischief and, he sees something that, either fascinates or confuses him, and then when he jumps on it, suddenly it backfires and he gets himself into, this crazy situation. Like he attacks a hose and then starts squirting him and wraps itself around him, and the poor thing. Because I think the thing is that they try to portray him as almost a real dog. Like, he acts like what a real dog would act in these situations. Go a little crazy with the gardening equipment or stuff like that. And then he ends up getting himself tangled. And then he just starts wailing in pain and running around like crazy. It's heartbreaking.
But I have to say, even though it is sad, I think it was good slapstick. I think this is the first Disney cartoon that we viewed that had really good slapstick. The editing is on point, the scenarios, I could see this happening in a Tom and Jerry cartoon. And
True.
So I thought it was fun. While it was a little bit sad to see Pluto in these situations, I thought it was a good cartoon. Not the best featuring Pluto. There are much better out there, but I think
True.
In terms of Disney animation, in terms of everything going on, I thought it was really well done slapstick.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no doubt. There's always something to grab your attention. There's always stuff going off or getting broken or basically making the situation worse. So it keeps you entertained, but for the most part, I think if they did it with another character, like Goofy or something, it probably would have been a lot more funny, a lot more fun to watch. But as an official introduction to Pluto, I guess it does, sum up his character, because that is what he's like. He is basically, a real dog, just with, a few, enhanced traits.
He can stand on his hind legs sometimes, and he's a little bit smarter. And for the most part, I think the animation team did get down the expressions of him being a dog. He does seem like a real dog, and I think that's a little bit why it's not as funny as if it were with Mickey or with anyone else, is because he does have the realistic traits that a dog would have.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually glad that they don't make him talk like they do with so many other cartoons. Because they always have a dog character that talks. He's still their pet, but he's also intelligent and talks.
Scooby-Doo? Yeah,
like Scooby-Doo or Brian from Family Guy or Dogbird or something like that. I actually like Pluto just because he's a dog. He's like the dog that you wanted growing up as a kid. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am more of a cat person, unfortunately, but if I were a dog person, this is the kind of pet that I would want.
Totally. I would totally get a dog like Pluto, and I would name him Pluto.
So yeah, overall, it's better than some of the early ones, but I think The Wise Little Hen beats it out just because it does kind of make me sad seeing Pluto like this.
Yeah, poor thing. But thankfully, there's more cartoons of him later that show him as being a lot more a stronger, competent character, you know, and a more compassionate one at that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this one just showed him, you know, like, as a weak little dog, you know, getting into shenanigans like all dogs do. And I guess that's alright, but there are better ones out there that I much more prefer.
Mm-hmm. There's even, outside of animation, there's a book that I had when I was a kid. It's a storybook where it was Mickey and Donald, I think, or Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, and they were going into a haunted mansion, and Pluto saves the day. I just remember that when I was a kid, I had that book, and I'm just like, hey, look, Pluto identified the criminals and everything. It's like, yeah, way to go, Pluto.
Yeah,
it's like Inspector Gadget's dog.
Well, he's always been that character in all the cartoons. He always finds the little creatures that, you know, are causing trouble that for some reason the main characters can't see. So.
Like the chipmunks, when the chipmunks were first introduced, and they were like all giggly, and it was his job to go and chase the chipmunks, even though Mickey never could find them. So. Yeah,
the Christmas episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that one. Poor Pluto, he gets so much guff.
Not as much guff as Goofy gets, I think.
Yeah, but Goofy rolls with the punches. I'm kind of used to it at this point.
Especially like when the Goofy movie came out, like he's used to it. He's used to everything. So when he gets like blown up in his car or whatever, he's just like, oh, it's just a Saturday, you know.
Just a scratch.
So next we viewed, was it the Jazzy episode next?
Yes, this is the last one on our list. It is called Mr. Duck Steps Out. It is a Daffy Duck cartoon, and this marks the very first appearance.
Donald Duck.
Yes, Donald Duck. Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. So yes, this marks the very first appearance of Donald Duck's girlfriend, Daisy.
Yay!
Yay!
And it also marks, I don't think it's the first appearance, but it also marks an appearance of Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Donald's nephews.
Yes. This isn't their first appearance, but it's one of those episodes where they started showing up a lot more. Because, you know, like, they kind of do move the plot along, because basically the plot is that Donald has planned a romantic evening with his girlfriend, and his nephews want to tag along for whatever reason. So.
Mm-hmm. And he tries to dance with Daisy on his date, and the little rapscallions keep cutting in.
Yeah.
And so I can totally see why he's angry in this episode.
Seriously, they're cock-blocking him. Not cool. But at the same time, you know, it's kind of like it's kind of the same on both ends when it comes to Donald and his nephews, because like they always find ways to screw around with him, and he always finds ways to screw around with them.
Yeah, so, they play off each other very well.
Yeah, so like neither side is like the innocent in the situation, because they always find some way, you know, to be the jerk and to, you know, totally fuck with them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this episode's a prime example, though, because, like, instead of just telling them, hey, guys, I want some alone time with my girlfriend, can you just give me that? No, he locks them in a closet and then, you know, just takes off. Seriously, what a jerk.
And I just... The biggest thing I love about this episode is the music.
Yes.
For all of those who really know me, one of my favorite musical genres is jazz. Like, I love big band and swing. I love old-timey stuff like that. But jazz is one of my favorite styles. Especially, it's just such a happy type of music. And back then, people could dance with their waggling fingers. And
yes.
you could dance. You could actually dance in public without being judged by anyone.
Yes. If you could waggle your finger, you could dance to jazz. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and the dancing, like, the animation for that was very fast-paced. It was actually really impressive.
Yeah, the animation was really ahead of its time in terms of the amount of things they were doing on screen. And especially, like, looking back to Steamboat Willie, how slow the animation was, and that animation was groundbreaking for its time, but you can definitely see the evolution of the Disney animation in terms of, well, it's not like as good quality, good graphical quality. It wasn't like, you know, The Little Mermaid where it just looks beautiful.
True.
But this is the animation where they finally perfected like fast pace, everything going on at the same time.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good.
The thing lacking with Steamboat Willie was that it was a lot of real rubbery animation. Like, you saw, like, them contorting their bodies in unbelievable ways. You saw limbs, like, wiggling about and stuff. So, whereas here, you know, everything has structure, everything is, like smooth, crisp, and, you know, it's really impressive how they managed to make that flow, like, so smooth, so fast. It's, you know, really great to watch.
Mm-hmm. And I just have to say, I think this is my favorite of the cartoons we viewed for today, because first of all, it takes the good slapstick of the last cartoon, but it makes it so much more fun. Mm-hmm. And where it's Donald is the one getting hurt.
Yes, poor Donald.
And he's the type of character that you love to see messed with. You love to see him lose his temper, and he's so fun. And he reminds me of Tom from Tom and Jerry. If Tom had a voice, if Tom had the type of temper, but you know, just seeing him being beat up is fun.
Oh, yes, definitely. I do feel bad for my parts, though, where he's swallowing a bunch of corn, and then he ends up getting stuck near a fireplace, and then all of a sudden popcorn just starts spewing out of his mouth. It's like, oh, God, they're killing him.
But then again, yeah, can ducks eat popcorn and still survive? I don't know.
As long as you don't feed them Pepsid tablets. That'll make him explode. Yeah.
But it is a little bit cruel, but it's not like the type of Pluto type cruel where like it's not as funny.
Yeah,
this one is just funny. This is definitely hilarious, and it gets to the point where it's just like you're rooting for the nephews, and at the same time you're dancing to the music and
you're just having a good old time. Personally, I think the weakest part, I hate to say, of the cartoon is actually Daisy. Because she really doesn't have a personality at this point. Because she pretty much, like, first, I like her entrance. You know, she kind of comes out from behind a curtain and it's like, da-da! And she's like, hello, boys.
And she doesn't really contribute much.
No, she's pretty much there just, you know, to be flung around by Donald and the boys and stuff. And she doesn't seem to really care that, you know, a bunch of, like, little kids are crashing her date with her boyfriend or that they're constantly trying to dance with her or whatever. She's just, like, enjoying the ride.
Mm-hmm. And an interesting thing to note about this episode, Daisy and Donald have the exact same voice.
Yes, that it is so creepy.
And I'm just like, wait a second, Donald, what have you done?
It's kind of the opposite, you know, with like, whereas with Mickey and Minnie, like Minnie was basically, you know, Mickey in a dress, but she sounded completely different, so that's what made her, you know, separate from him. Whereas in this case, both Donald and Daisy sound exactly alike, but she actually looks more like a separate character and not just, you know, him with a bow.
She has eyelashes where Donald doesn't.
True, so. But like she's kind of drawn a bit different, you know, like she's a bit more feminine looking.
Mm-hmm. And like, she looks like she has like eyeshadow on, and she has.
And her arms are actually thinner, and I think her bill was shorter. So there are a few small noticeable differences. But the thing is, like, she didn't have, like I said, she didn't have a personality at this point, because if you watch later cartoons, it's revealed that she has, like, as big a temper, perhaps even bigger than Donald, because she, like, is a real high-maintenance girlfriend, and she's always, like, beating up on him and demanding this and smacking him around and stuff like that. And it's actually really fun to watch. And then later on, she was kind of toned down, and she was actually giving a normal voice, which is really surprising.
Finally. Yeah,
she was given a normal voice, more modern look, and she pretty much lost all that anger, you know, but she was still, like, you know, the girlfriend with attitude. Mm-hmm. So it's funny to see how much she changed over the years. I actually think she changed more than any of the other characters, you know, throughout the whole Disney history. So.
Yeah, she's probably one of the ones that changed the most, other than Mickey. I think Mickey might be second most.
True, but he kind of, like, he went from A to B. He went from being, a troublemaking, a troublemaking, like, fun-loving mouse to, like, this real, kind of bland, role model type guy. So, I mean, really, there's really, like, no way to describe Mickey other than, you know, happy, bland, and, you know, good for the kids.
And that's the thing. Like when Mickey changed his personality, it was Disney trying to market the morals that he would later show up in his animated films, where he wanted people to, you know, be a good person, you know, don't be a bad kid, and it kind of started with Mickey.
Yeah, I didn't really like that, because, like, I guess they were trying to move away from, like, you know, I guess they wanted to, like, not make it seem that they were copying off of Bugs Bunny or Tom and Jerry or anything like that. But, you know, if you're not going to have, like, another set point of where to, like, take the character, then I say you shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean...
That took all the fun out of him, because then they basically had to rely on Donald and Goofy for all the antics and stuff. You know, whereas Mickey was just, you know, the straight man who just went along with them and then ended up in those situations.
Mm-hmm. I think it would have been better if he stayed as this rascally rat, but, you know, they did what they did, and for the most part, it worked. Mm-hmm. And we can definitely see the evolution.
Yeah, definitely, but overall, I do think Daisy had the most, you know, character-changing traits out of all of them. Just she went from bland to angry to sassy, and then I guess it's all she's been for now. Because I really haven't seen her much other than, you know, occasional House of Mouse episodes and the occasional like straight to DVD movies.
She was in Kingdom Hearts, and she was still sassy.
Oh, yes, Kingdom Hearts. Yes, she's still the ever-controlling girlfriend.
It's like, Donald went off where? Oh, no.
Yeah, I guess, okay, she went from bland to angry to sassy to controlling. There we go. There's the arc of Daisy.
So, yeah, those are the early cartoons that we viewed for today. And we're not going to really go into more cartoons down the line, because we really just wanted to go into the first. The stuff where characters were introduced and where the animation and stuff were really changing, and see how Disney got his start. Next time, we're going to be talking about Snow White.
Yay!
And I am quite excited for that, because I saw Snow White actually recently, because they brought it back from the Disney Vault, and the remastered version is very good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe I own one of those remastered versions, and it's really nice to, you know, see it like really crisp and everything, because the original version I owned, like, kind of had like bad lighting quality on it, so like the backgrounds just kind of melded into shadow, whereas characters like Snow White kind of like, you know, really stuck out from the rest of the background. But I thought they did a good job in, you know, in restoring it, and I really look forward to watching it again for the next podcast.
I mean, it has been a little bit since I've seen the remastered version, so I am incredibly looking forward to that, but that will be in the future. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching the Disney debate and listening to us rant about Disney and have differing opinions and stuff. So, this has been the Disney debate. If you have any comments, suggestions, or anything that you're looking forward to us looking at in the future, please let me know. You can leave comments in the comments thread at zenithrule.blip.tv. I check the comments every other day when I get a chance. Or you can follow us at twitter.com/zenithrule and twitter.com/EphraimTRabbit. Yes.
That is me.
And you can also follow us on Facebook. I'm no longer on YouTube, but Kat is.
Yes, I'm under Kat T. Critic.
Kat T. Critic, she produces videos with Crazy Crew Productions, and they do a lot of fan vids for That Guy with the Glasses and for Linkara and for other people involved with that. So check out her work. I mean, she does some really fun things, and give her a check out. So,
aw, you're too kind.
But anyway, I'm Zenith Rule.
And I'm Kat Mack, a.k.a. Ephraim T. Rabbit.
And we're signing off for now, but we'll see you next time.
Yes, in the words of the great Tigger, TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Later, guys.
Thank you for watching The Media Meltdown. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. And if you like what you see, show your support on the Patreon page at patreon.com/Media Meltdown. See you all next time on The Media Meltdown.